glad to be talking to you all today. So we're going to be talking about why two solutions are perfect for scaling blockchain. But first, I thought we could start with introductions. So Jack, you can start.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jack Holleran, CEO of Scale Labs. We are the core team behind the Scale Network. Pleasure to be here today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emin. I'm the CEO of Ava Labs. I'm also a professor at Cornell University. I'm also the co-director of Initiative for Cryptocurrencies and Smart Contracts.
And hey, everyone. I am Marek Olszewski. I'm the CTO and one of the co-founders of C Labs, which is one of the companies working on the Celo network.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for being with us. So I thought we'd start off with the question of the panel. Why are layer 2 solutions perfect for scaling blockchains, or are layer 2 solutions perfect for scaling blockchains? If you could each answer, maybe we'll start with Emin this time.
So, yeah, I couldn't really hear what you said, Leila, but I think the question is, why are layer 2s a good fit for blockchain scaling? And so I think let me just come out and say outright that I do have some credentials in this space, in the sense that we developed the fastest layer 2 for Bitcoin in something called T-Chain and T-Chan. And but deep down, I believe that the best way to build scalable blockchains is by building scalable layer 1s. Scalable layer 1s is what everybody needs. At the core of every good scalable layer 2 solution lies a good scalable layer 1 solution. But with that said, layer 2s are welcome on every blockchain, and they represent a reasonable technique for addressing the scalability issues and for shedding off load from the underlying network. What you can do in a layer 2 solution is, of course, take the load off, resolve issues off-chain without having to use the security of the network, and then bring back the resolved, the fast-forwarded smart contract or the resolved set of payments back into the chain without having to tire the chain out for things that could have been resolved in private. So there are many cases where this could go much faster than having to use the underlying chain, and also this can also be very, very, very cheap. This is at its best when there are things like payment networks. When A is paying B, that's really a bilateral issue. It doesn't really necessarily involve the rest of the network. It can be resolved off-chain most effectively. But when you have multi-node or multiple users using a smart contract, then the off-chain solutions are actually difficult. That's when layer 2s are potentially not the best solutions. So, with my professorial hat on, I think there are benefits to both approaches. What unites us is our commitment to decentralized solutions. So what is best in this space is, of course, any solution that is trustless. So with that, I'll let Jack and Marek present their ideas.
All right, go ahead, Marek, and I'll go next.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing to add is, I think that we're in an exciting time right now. I think what's clear really with all of this excitement around both layer 2s and also side chains and other kind of EVM compatible layer 1s is that it's giving people an avenue for a lot of this excess capacity that clearly needs to go somewhere, because there's clearly more demand for decentralized smart contract platforms than there is capacity on Ethereum. And I think one really nice thing about all of these different offerings that have been springing up is that it really gives us opportunities to experiment and to innovate and even to try out kind of new things that maybe are a little more specialized. As Emin said, layer 2s can be good for payments, and likewise there are networks that are good for other things. And so, for example, Celo, we really focused on giving one block finality, having native stablecoins built into the platform, where you can even pay for transaction fees with those stablecoins or with other ERC20 tokens on the platform. Things like efficient like clients that you can sync with the chain, These are things that are important to some users, but not to all users. And it's just really nice that, we have a world now where there's lots of different offerings, where there's more choice for developers to try out new platforms. And, as Emin said, we're all united by our desire for decentralization. And I think that's why we're all here.
Yeah, and I really agree with both you guys. And I think in particular, the uniting around decentralization. And one interesting thing for people who aren't really closely following the layer 2 or scalability field is there's actually a nomenclature and diction battle as well happening around syntax of what is a layer 2. And for me, I think my perspective is I'm a maximalist around decentralization. I feel like if we put value into away from blockchains and into centralized systems that one are really good for certain use cases, but if we try to put all our eggs in that basket where we're abandoning blockchains and then trying to integrate methods and methodologies with randomization and swapping of which individual node is actually really in control of something and implementing game theoretical mechanisms. I appreciate the work people are doing there, but it worries me a bit that we're getting away from the core magic that's really brought the industry where we are today. So I'm a firm believer in layer 2 scaling or scaling of blockchains with other blockchains, and also actually a believer too that we're going to have a lot of really interesting solutions out there. Look at the people on the panel today. I feel like everyone is building something that's unique and different, and I see a bright future, and I see so much demand that we're going to need all the smart people we can get in this space building.
Those are all really interesting answers. I was curious, especially on that point where you mentioned the fact that what exactly is a layer 2 and the whole debate, and the fact that you all are doing such different things. I was curious about what made each of you in your specific organizations and projects choose the layer 2 solutions you are working with, and what was the sort of payoff that happened as a result of you choosing those? Jack, if you want to start.
Yeah, I'll go first. I think we all have unique situations, and that question probably isn't even, needs to be reframed for some other people here. But for Scale, Scale's actually built in, it's Ethereum native and multi-chain. It's built on Ethereum. And so Ethereum actually guides Scale nodes and where they work and which chains they participate in. And so we're really just very focused on supporting and scaling Ethereum. And that's, so Scale is a scalability solution. It's by many standards a layer 2, by many standards not a layer 2, by many standards a layer 1, by many standards not a layer 1. And we just kind of took an approach of we were trying to build something for ourselves for the applications we were looking at building, and that's really what led us down this path. So, and we felt like it was optimal for the situation within Ethereum. And excited to hear the other panelists, because I know they're not doing layer 2s and have different perspectives and operate in a similar field. So
yes, so in that I'm obviously, and it's understandable that not operating in layer 2 like Emin, you can rephrase the question maybe to what it's like operating, especially for you, and from having built layer 2 and then going back to layer 1 or building on layer 1 now, what that process was like and why you've made that decision. Sorry.
Right, Leila. No, I think the differences, as Jack pointed out, are actually very, very, very minute. So the difference between a side chain versus a layer 2 versus a layer 1 are essentially, they're very hard to discern. So, there was a lot of talk about interoperability, right? There were chains launched where the entire selling point is this thing solves the interoperability problem. There are K different blockchains, and this one's going to be the K+1 that solves interoperability. And I will tell you what, it introduced yet another, the K+1 chain to be that is not interoperable with all the K that came before it. So I don't think the interoperability problem is going to be solved in that fashion. I think that what we're moving towards is going to be a universe of many different blockchains with bridges that are connecting them. And when you go from the layer one, you can have one layer one to a different one, or one layer one to a different L2, or one layer one to a different, whatever it is, a roll-up, etc. Essentially, you're doing the same thing. You're taking assets in one universe, converting them into a different universe, resolving transactions off the chain, and bring them back in. So in Avalanche, the main thing that we did was to address head-on the three big problems that are facing every single solution on Earth, every single blockchain solution on Earth. What are those problems? Scale. Second one is flexibility, the ability to support more than one virtual machine and more than one network. And the third one is governance, being able to control what this thing does in a dynamic fashion after it's been deployed. And we interoperate with Ethereum via bridges. We plan to interoperate with many other chains via bridges. And we have so much scale, so much capacity, thanks to our brand new novel consensus protocol, that we can take on that load, resolve it, and the assets can move back to their native chains afterwards.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo that. I think definitely as more and more layer ones and layer twos and side chains continue to launch, I think this internet of blockchains reality is certainly one that we've already started living in. And over time, each of these chains will start specializing a little bit, and there will be use cases that each of them are better at. I think governance and scale will continue to be important, as Emin mentioned, and honestly will become table stakes over time. And then we'll see other specialization. And one of the things that Seller really specializes on is mobile payments. We spent a ton of time building a consensus protocol that really works very well on mobile devices, where you can realistically actually sync with the chain on a resource-constrained mobile device. And that means using a ZK Snark proof that you can download, a fact-by proof, and verify it in constant time really, really easily. We worked really, really hard to make that possible. And then, obviously stability is just really critical for DeFi and very, very critical for payments, but making it just really easy for people to send those payments, allowing transaction fees to be paid with these stable coins that are implemented as ERC20 tokens. If you think about where DeFi is going to go over time, we need that kind of simplicity for your end users. Gone will be the days where people have to think about multiple currencies. And then finally, addresses. I think a lot of people here are probably very comfortable with private key derived or public private key derived addresses. But if you think about the end user that we're hoping to get on board onto DeFi, those people are very, very intimidated by these kind of addresses. And so baked in directly into Celo is a decentralized phone verification protocol that makes it really easy for you to, one, verify your phone number in a fully decentralized manner, but after that, to be able to actually send payments to phone numbers instead of to these intimidating publicly derived addresses. And that's really, really exciting, because not only does it let you send payments to people who are in your contact list on your mobile device, it also lets you send payments to people before they even sign up. And that, from a growth perspective, from a making DeFi global perspective, is just going to really be very important over time.
Pretty much everyone mentioned the idea of almost this universe of different solutions and blockchains. I was curious, so we're all kind of still waiting around for Ethereum 2.0, and I was kind of curious if this world we're creating is kind of pushing not the need for it, but more like the big savior of it further out and not as important, because we're coming up with solutions faster than that's coming out. I was wondering what your thoughts were on that were. Whoever wants to start can go for it.
I'll take first cut at that. So one, I think it's a good point, and I feel like that's probably a perspective many people have. What I'm seeing from my view is the amount of businesses and entrepreneurs that in the past would have been starting machine learning companies or social networks or consumer applications. All of these people are flooding into the blockchain space, and not in one area, but actually across a whole span and spectrum of industries and applications and uses of smart contracts. So I think we're really at this explosive state where we're not to the knee of the curve yet. We're figuring out all these fiat on-ramps and wallet integrations and bridging, and I think we're getting really close. And I think it can feel like there's a lot of confusion and infighting and kind of like religiosity around what technique is the best from the outside, and it seems like it's slowing stuff down. But personally, I think the builders are building, and all of the people building infrastructure around them are supporting them. They're building, everyone's raising ecosystem funds and innovator programs, accelerators. So we're at a really exciting time. And my message to people who aren't inside seeing this is there's some exciting stuff coming.
Let me echo that and build on it. That's exactly right. There's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of religiosity. There's a lot of, whenever there's so much excitement, you end up having people flood in and come up with the cheapest, dirtiest solutions. These are the people who tend to not have any staying power, and these are the projects that tend to disappear. It takes no effort whatsoever to take geth and to run it on a centralized group of machines, and voila, you've got something in your hand that you can build as a scalability solution. And often what these people do is they say, oh, look, we're going to start out as a layer 2. Actually, now that this is a layer 2 panel, we should talk about how this is actually pertinent here. They start out as a layer 2 solution, and to an uninitiated person, this sounds really appealing. Oh, these people are friendly. These people are going to work on my own coin. They're going to bring more value to my coin. But I suggest, A, I have an observation, and B, I have a suggestion. Observation is everybody who starts out like this ends up issuing their own token. Sooner or later, the token is coming, because that's the proven way to fund development. There is none other that has been tried out and that has actually led to a sustainable model. The token is there. Even Uniswap, whose goal was to not issue a token, ended up issuing a token. So that's going to happen. So whether or not a layer 2 brings value to the underlying system depends on the actual activities of the group. Are they coming in with new technology? And in addition, are they coming in and looking for actual business development venues for that technology? Are they making things happen that would not otherwise have happened? Because when they inevitably fork off, when they inevitably start with their own separate push, using their own token, they're going to cleave away and take away some of that business, some of that TVL, some of that activity that was on the original chain. So that is in the works. It will happen. Are those people really trying to make the pie bigger, or are these zero-sum games slicing an already, I think the DeFi pie is tiny when you look at the general macroeconomy. So do you want another person to come and take a bite out of this with a fancy, moon math trick? Or are these people bringing in things and that would not have otherwise happened on the original chain? I suggest that everybody take a look at that. And in fact, these competing layer 1s typically have their own business development teams. They have their own vision. They're trying to make the pie bigger for everybody. And many layer 2s end up being, oh, I just ran geth on AWS, and now make me rich. So people have to be kind of careful about what's going on, the dynamic in the layer 2 space.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And maybe just to take the question in a slightly different direction, I think, there's been this really interesting debate lately around increasing block sizes, never-ending debate, I guess. But recently with Elon Musk tweeting about increasing block sizes for Dogecoin, I think Vitalik wrote a very, very thoughtful piece around why he thinks sharding is really the way to go to achieve scalability and decentralization. And it's certainly one of the directions that obviously the ecosystem is exploring, and I think it's very, very much worth exploring. But I do think that there are additional opportunities as well. I think the biggest criticism of scaling vertically and increasing block sizes and increasing the compute requirements of full nodes and of validators and miners is that it effectively makes it harder for hobbyists to run these nodes on their personal computers. And that's certainly true, but I think there are interesting new ideas that still have yet to be explored around incentivizing professional folks to run large numbers of these nodes so that we can achieve both decentralization and scalability. I think Ethereum at its peak had around 12,000 nodes, according to ethernodes.org. That is very, very much feasible for any network that has the appropriate incentives for people to run full nodes, which, admittedly today is a thankless task and one that you don't get paid for. But it's certainly possible. One of the ways that we're doing it is by incentivizing full nodes to service like clients. Again, if you have a very efficient like client protocol, then you can have a lot of like clients on the 6 billion smartphones that exist today with active mobile subscriptions. They can connect to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of full nodes that can service these nodes in a fully permissionless manner and can actually get paid as part of the core protocol for doing that. And so I think there's really a lot of really interesting ideas still that are left to explore around achieving very, very highly decentralized networks that also can scale much beyond even the fastest layer ones and layer twos today.
Awesome. I mean, that was such incredible insight, even taking it off into a different direction. I mean, just brings more to the table. I was wondering, Emin mentioned the how small this world actually still currently is. Sort of looking into the future, do you think there'll be a time where users won't really care what the solutions their dApps that they're using are built on, or will this always matter?
Let me start. Let me take a stab at this. So absolutely, our goal with Avalanche is to make sure that dApps on Avalanche can present a seamless interface to the user. And to those people who've never tried it, I suggest they try interacting with any dApp like Pangolin on Avalanche. It is entirely different than any other blockchain experience you might have seen. The finality is so fast that the experience is as if you're interacting with a centralized website, even though behind the scenes you have about 1,000 nodes that are processing your transaction that are involved in the construction of the blockchain. These are actual block producers, 1,000 block producers. I'm not even counting the additional nodes that are checking the blockchain. So absolutely, our vision is that of a seamless Web3 experience for all kinds of applications, wherein the user has no idea that they're interacting with a blockchain. So we have a lot more, of course, ground to cover in this space, but it's starting to happen. And I think normie adoption is beginning to also happen as well, although we have a ways to go to that as well. But it's a qualitatively different experience.
Yeah, I'll echo that and say similar experience using the first application that went live on the Scale mainnet. And I think there's a lot of similarities and goals between the projects here when I see what Avalanche is aiming to do and what Scale is aiming to do. And when you have block times of 0.35 seconds, 0.45 seconds, it's an absolutely transformative experience using a blockchain application. But I think Leila, you're right. The goal is for the end user not to say, "Wow, I had such a good time using Scale today." They should say, "Wow, I had a really great time using this application. Oh, it was on a blockchain." I mean, just like, hey, I took an Uber ride the other day. I didn't really know if I was using AWS or Google Cloud, but hey, I got where I wanted to go. And and Stripe processed the payment. Good. Okay, like I don't care. I just want to get somewhere and pay for it. And that's our job. And really our where the hearts and minds have to be won by protocols and blockchains is with developers ultimately, and helping them win the hearts and minds of their users.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's an interesting comment about normies getting into this space. Over time, this will of course just continue to be the case, and I think we will see a world where that reality where you don't have to know what platform your underlying application is running on, and it really necessitates that that this future that you described, Leila, is going to happen. Similarly, I think if anyone's interested in seeing similar to Pangolin experiences that look and feel like centralized offerings running on decentralized platforms, I highly recommend checking out Valora as well. That's a decentralized Venmo-like product running on Celo. And the team there worked just so hard to fully abstract all of the crypto away. But the end result is you can send money to phone numbers, send money to people in your contact list with really fast finality in a fully decentralized manner. And people running that application have no clue what protocol it's running on. It's been fully abstracted away. And I think our job as platform developers really is to build the best platform for those developers building those kinds of experiences. And yeah, that's what we're doing.
I want the decentralized Venmo, Marek.
Check it out. Valora app.
All right.
It's there.
Cool.
Thanks so much for that. So we're getting to the end of our time. I was wondering if there are any ideas that haven't been touched on that maybe you'd want to mention, especially about maybe the supposed perfection of layer 2. If not,
yeah, I think. Sorry, Jack. Just last, I'll just before we close here, I'm sure everybody has some thoughts, but I just think there's been a lot of talk and a lot of work while that talk's happening, and I think a lot of really amazing teams were funded in 2017, 2018, and we're starting to actually see the output of that work. And the next year is going to be pretty exciting, and whether it's on layer 2s or layer 1s or some culmination of those things. It's just exciting, I think, for people in the space where, the rising tide lifts all boats, and we're actually going to get real, take a bite out of centralized competitors. That's kind of what I'm ultimately excited about, as well as many things launching on scale. But in general, this industry is going to get hot in the right way.
Absolutely, I think it's a really exciting time, and obviously DeFi has been just on a rocket ship over the last year, but there's so much more that can happen. And one of the things that, not surprisingly perhaps, I'm most excited about is payments. Payments has long been kind of one of the holy grails in DeFi, and we're really at that point now where more and more it's becoming a reality. And so I'm just absolutely thrilled for what the future has in store for that.
Yeah, and let me say a few words about the current climate we're in. So if I had to characterize what's happened exactly a year ago, and then since then, I would say that we saw an enormous amount of interest in new launches. And we had a lot of very exciting projects, maybe going back to 2016, 17 actually, start to take hold and start to capture the public's imagination. And of course, the best financial rewards go to people who invest in good ideas early. So we ended up seeing a lot of investment, a lot of people come in and go into projects very, very early on. Now, once you see a couple of these projects take hold, then what happens next is, well, okay, my cousin Jimbo ended up getting rich on some token issuance. I too want to have that happen, and you can do this, and it becomes a self-reinforcing dynamic where there is a new coin. The idea behind it is broken, but because there are enough people who think that they will make money off of it, that coin does go up. Now, this game cannot continue forever. And at the end of the day, what really carries the field are the good ideas, the projects with actual technical strength behind them. And there aren't that many technical ideas that are novel. So at the end of the day, after a year of this, you end up with a bunch of people trying to run after dog coins to trying to get rich. And the correction that we're living through now is well-deserved. It's great, actually, for builders. It's a correction that separates the wheat from the chaff. separates the projects without staying power, separates the projects that have no technical background. So this is a great time to build. I suspect that in the fall we're going to see a resurgence of activity because a lot of effort will come to fruition. We'll see exciting developments in DeFi. We'll see exciting developments in Web3. We'll see other developments that have long been talked about but have not been addressed, like identity on a blockchain and so on. There are lots of different areas that there's been a lot of noise about, but the people who know how to solve them and the tools that are required to solve them had not yet been brought to bear, and that's coming. So I'm super excited and super bullish about the space, no matter the temporary correction we're living through at the moment, and super excited about what's to come.
Thank you all so much. Yeah, it's going to be a great time. We're looking forward to it. Thanks for speaking with us all tonight, and yeah, have a good day.
Thank you.